Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to crochet the diagonal stripes and texture crochet pillow, which is a free pattern you'll find on yarnspirations.com. This pattern calls for 2 balls of Bernat Blanket in your choice of color and a USL 11 8mm crochet hook, or the size you need to obtain gauge. This pattern is for a 16-inch pillow, so I like to use a slightly larger 18-inch pillow form to give it maximum squish. But if you like it a little flatter, you can use a 16-inch pillow form too. To make this pattern, we'll make 2 squares and then we'll seam them together around the outside. Here's how to begin. Now, as I mentioned, this pillow is made with 2 squares, so you'll follow these directions to make 2 identical squares before we seam them together. To begin row 1, we're going to start with a row of 32 foundation double crochets. So I'm going to go ahead and put the slip knot right on my hook here. There we are. And then I'm going to make 32 foundation double crochets. To make the first one, I will chain 2, 1, 2, and then I will yarn over, go into the furthest stitch from my hook, and I like to go into that back loop of the stitch of the chain, but you can go into whichever part you prefer. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Now that stitch right there will become the chain at the bottom of my first double crochet here. So I'll yarn over and pull the loop through 1. Now we've started our double crochet, so I yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And then we've made our first foundation double crochet. So to make the other 31, we yarn over, go under the 2 loops at the bottom of the first one. Remember, we said that was the chain, so we're going to go into that chain or foundation chain at the bottom of our first foundation double crochet. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through that loop. Now we've got that chain there. We've started our double crochet. We yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. And we've finished our second one. So that is how you make foundation double crochets. So we just continue just like that last one. Yarn over, go under both of those loops at the bottom of the previous stitch, pull up a loop. That loop becomes the chain at the bottom of the new stitch. Yarn over, pull through that loop. Now we've started our double crochet, so we can yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So continue just like that until you have 32 foundation double crochets made. Okay, so at the end of your first row, you should have 32 double crochets made. I'm going to be working a shorter swatch today just to make it a little bit more manageable on camera. Let's begin our second row together. The second row will be the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, however you like to do it. And since we know this is the right side now, I'm going to go ahead and put a stitch marker right at the front of one of those stitches of the previous row. So now I'll always know that that's the right side. That's not really important for now, but it will be when we join our 2 pieces together to make our pillow. We want to make sure the right sides are facing out. So we've got our chain 1, and we're going to half double crochet in the first stitch. There we are. Then we are going to double crochet in the front post of the next 3 stitches. So some say DCFP for double crochet in the front post. Some would say front post double crochet. Same stitch. We're going to yarn over, find the post of the next stitch, go around it from front to back, yarn over, pull that loop around the stitch, and then work it off as a standard double crochet. And we're not going to work into the top of that stitch because we've worked around it. It's now considered worked. So we're going to do that 2 more times here, once around each of the next 2 stitches. So we yarn over, go around the post of the next stitch from front to back, yarn over, pull that loop behind, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2 to finish the stitch. Once more, we yarn over, go around that next post from front to back, pull up our loop, and then finish our double crochet. So there are our 3 front post double crochets. Then we're going to work 3 double crochets back post style, so back post double crochets. We yarn over. Now we're going to go around the post of the next stitch from behind. So bring the hook right behind your work, go around the post, Grab your loop, pull it around, and pull it up there to the back. You can give that a little extra tug if you need to. Back post double crochet is needed sometimes. Then we can yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So that's our first one. We've got 2 more. Yarn over, go around the post from behind, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Once more, we yarn over. Now this one's got our stitch marker in it, so if it gets in the way, we'll move it, but I think I should be able to work right around it here, or right above it rather. Yep, there we go, no problem. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And that's the end of our first repeat. The half double crochet is out there by itself on the end, but the repeat for this row is 3 front post double crochets followed by 3 back post double crochets. So let's do that for this swatch one more time, and you'll keep doing it on across till you get to that very last stitch. So we're going to front post double crochet around the next 3 stitches. We yarn over, go around the next stitch from front to back or around it, coming from the front of the work here. Yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over again, go around the post of the next stitch, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. One more time, we yarn over, go around the next stitch from the front, and pull through 2, and pull through 2. So then we just have our 3 back post double crochets. Yarn over, now come from the back of our fabric, around that post, and pull up our loop. Yarn over, finish it just as you would a double crochet, and then 2 more, come from the back, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we've got our last one here, getting right down here to the end. Like I say, you'll have a few more repeats of this for the full-size pillow. Oops. Dropped my hook right off my loop there. I'm going to go ahead and just use my fingers to pull that through. There we are. Get that back on my hook. And here we are then at our last stitch. So in that very last stitch of the row, you're going to work a half double crochet. So we just yarn over, and now we're going to go right into the top of that stitch, under the top 2 loops there, and just work our half double crochet off as usual. So that is the basic repeat for row 2. Now I want to point out, as I said, this is the right side of our work, so we've got a stitch marker there. But when it comes to back post and front post, that's relative to you, the crocheter. So when I flip this over, even though I'm on the wrong side, or some might say the back of the work, a front post, I'm still going to go from the front, and a back post, I'm still going to come from behind. Again, relative to me, the crocheter, or you, the crocheter, not relative to the right side or the wrong side of your work. So don't let that trip you up. So that's what it should look like, although obviously a lot wider with a few more repeats after row 2. So let's go ahead and begin row 3. Okay, let's begin row 3. We're going to start again with a chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, however you like to do it, and then half double crochet in the first stitch. With that, we're ready to begin our repeat, which is the portion that begins with the asterisks. So we start with a double crochet front post in the next 2 stitches. So, like I said, even though we've turned, it's still relative to us. We yarn over and go from the front of our work for a front post stitch. So there's 1. There we go. Yarn over and find that second one there. And there's 2. And then after that, we double crochet in the back post for the next 3 stitches. So we yarn over, come from behind, and even though it looks like a front post to us now, we're going to do a back post around it. So don't let that part trip you up. Just go right from behind as we did before. Give that loop a little extra tug there if needed, and work that off. So we've got 3 of these to make. Our second one here, and then our third one. Oop. Sometimes with these thick yarns, you really have to kind of take your time and make sure you're getting them on the hook there. There we are. So we've got our first 2 double crochet in the front post, 3 double crochets around the back post. Then we double crochet in front post around the next one. So you can see this one looks like a back post, but we're going to do a front post. So that will pull that one up there. There we go. And that is the end of our repeat. Our repeat, as you can see, is 6 stitches long. Remember, in the previous row, it was 3 double crochet front posts followed by 3 double crochet back post. In this one, it's 2 front post, 3 back post, 1 front post. So we're going to repeat that again. So we start again with 2 front post. As you can see, that now puts 3 of them in a row. Now, by shifting ever so slightly, in every row where we begin, we will be shifting the weave of our post stitches here, and that's what gives us that diagonal stripe and texture for this pillow. So we've got 2, remember right here is where we started our repeat again, 2 front post, then we need 3 back post. So we come from the back of our work, pull that loop up, there's 1, 2, and 3. And then we finish our repeat with 1 front post. So right around there, there we are. And then we've got our last stitch left, a half double crochet, just to cap it off. And the half double crochets at the end here give us a really nice solid edge when we do work our edging. So you'll want to keep repeating, like I say, that's your repeat. 2 front posts, 3 back posts, 1 front post, over and over again until you get to that last stitch, which is where we work our half double crochet. And that's it for row 3. All right, so let's begin row 4. Again, we're going to chain 1 and turn, or turn and chain 1, and half double crochet in that first stitch. There we are. And then we're ready to begin the part that starts with the asterisk. We work double crochets around the back post of the next 2 stitches. So we find that first one there, go around the back, pull up our loop. Don't be afraid to turn your work over if it makes it easier for you to work those back post stitches. Just take your time and work those loops off. We are working with a very thick yarn here, and it's so fuzzy and slippery. Go around the next one there for our back post double crochet. There we are. And then we are going to double crochet around the front post of the next 3 stitches. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. And then if you remember, it is a 6 stitch repeat. So the last stitch of the repeat will be a double crochet back post around the next stitch. So we have shifted again, just a little bit how we work our stitches, getting that great. You can see that diagonal starting to line up there a little bit already. So that was our first go through of that repeat. Let's do the 4th row repeat again together. Double crochet around the back post of the next 2 stitches. So we just start again right at that asterisk. So there's 1, 2, double crochet around the front post of the next 3. So the post itself is the same, it's just the approach, whether we come from the front or the back. So there's 2 and 3. And then finish up the repeat with a back post double crochet. And you'll just keep doing that repeat all the way across till you get to that very last stitch, of course, where we put a half double crochet. And that caps off row 4. And you can really see now how that diagonal texture is starting to work together. So let's go ahead and move on to row 5. So to begin row 5, just like the others, we're going to chain 1 and turn and put a half double crochet right in that first stitch. There we are. Then we are going to work a double crochet around the back post of the next 3 stitches. So we come from behind for the next 3. So there's our first one. And then number 2. And number 3. And while this pattern is pretty straightforward, if you ever start getting confused about, gosh, which post is next, I'm getting a little confused, you can always sort of follow that top line of V's of the previous row, pull it out straight and follow that down to find that next post. So we have started with our 3 back post double crochets there. So then we're going to do 3 front post double crochets, or 3 double crochets from the front. So we go around from the front there for 1, 2, and 3. And with 6 stitches, that is our repeat for row 5. Sort of the opposite, if you will, from what we did in row 2. So we started again with 3 back post double crochets. 1, there we go, and 2, and 3, and then 3 front post double crochets. 1, pull up a little bit more yarn here, and 2, and 3. So you'll just continue that right on across, of course, just like all the other rows until you get to that very last stitch where we work our half double crochet. And that's it for row 5. It's growing pretty quickly, right? Now let's start row 6. Okay, so to begin row 6, we chain 1 and turn and work our half double crochet right in that first stitch. Then, of course, we're ready for our repeat. And for row 6, our repeat is going to be double crochet around the front post of the next stitch. So we'll go ahead and do that. Then we double crochet around the back post of the next 3. Just remember, we're always working in 3s. We're just kind of shifting what happens at the end there. So there's 1. Oop. The yarn's getting a little caught down here, fighting me. Let's get that up on the table to make it a little easier. There we go. So now we've got 2 and 3. And so then, of course, we're going to cap it off with 2 front post double crochets because we've already got 3 of the back posts. We've got 1 at the front post. So we need 2 more front posts there to finish our 6 stitch repeat. So there's 1 and 2. There we are. So let's do that again. We're going to start with 1 front post double crochet. There we go. Followed by 3 back post double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then, of course, 2 front post double crochets. 1 and 2. So that's your repeat. That should take you on across your row till you get to that very last stitch where, just as before, we work our half double crochet. There we are. And we're ready for row 7. Okay, row 7 is going to be the last row of our repeat that's going to get us through our pillow. So let's make it together. We're going to start with chain 1, turn, of course, to work back the other way, and half double crochet in that very first stitch. There we are. And for this row, our repeat is going to be double crochet around the back post of the next stitch. So we want to come from behind for that first one there of our repeat. Then double crochet around the front post of the next 3. So 1, 2, and 3. There we are. And then double crochet around the back post of the next 2 to finish our 6 stitch repeat. Let's see there. Wants to fight me a little bit. There we go. Get in around there. Hook. 1 and 2. All right. And that is our repeat. Well earned. Let's do that one more time. 1 back post double crochet, followed by 3 front post double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And then 2 back post double crochets to finish off this repeat there. 1 and 2. So that is your repeat there on across till we get to that very last stitch where we work our half double crochet. There we go. pull up a little bit more yarn for some play here so I can pull up my hook and talk just a little bit about our swatch. Now we've worked through the first 7 rows of our diagonal stripes and texture crochet pillow, and each piece, like I said, you're making 2 squares. So each square should be a total of, let me double check here, it is 24 rows total. So you'll repeat rows 2 through 7. Remember that first row was just a row of foundation double crochets, just kind of gets us set up and ready to work. Rows 2 through 7 are the ones you'll keep repeating until you've got 24 total rows. So you'll repeat rows 2 through 7 twice more, and then rows 2 through 6 once more, until you've got 24 rows total. And that should get you to a really nice square 16 inches. Might take just a little bit of blocking, but it should be pretty well square. So once you've got those 24 rows worked, before you break your yarn, you do want to work an edging round before making that second square. So let's go ahead and make that together. Okay, so now we're ready to work the edging round. We will have turned at the end of our 24th row, and we're going to start the edging with a chain 1, and we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch across the previous row. So since you should have had 32 stitches, you should have 32 single crochets across. But when we get to the end, we aren't going to turn our work back and forth again. We're going to rather turn it 90 degrees to work along the side. Okay, so after you've worked a single crochet in each stitch of the previous row, then rather than turning to work from the other side, we're going to turn our work 90 degrees to work along the sides of the previous rows. So we are going to start, though, that section with a chain 2, 1, 2. Then we're going to evenly space 32 single crochets along the side of the pillow. And yes, that's over 24 rows. So if it's helpful, what you can do is actually sort of fold your pillow into sections and use stitch markers to divide it, if you will. Like right here, I've got this little section, or my side rather, divided into 2 sections. And so if I knew I needed 32 stitches across this, which of course is too short for it, but if I needed 32 stitches across this, now I know that I need 16 in this section right here. If I divide that in half again, just sort of eyeballing it, that's all you really need to do, then that tells you, okay, now I need to work 8 across here. And that can be a lot more manageable. If you divide up that that row or the side of your work into sections with stitch markers, so you can make sure you get, the correct number of stitches in each section, say 8 stitches in 4 different sections for your total of 32. That will help you make sure that you're consistent and that you get all your stitches in there. You don't want to get to the end and realize you're 1 short. It just helps them be a lot more even. So that can be a good tip as you work across the side of your rows here. Now, another tip about working on the side of your rows is that it's not really, I always say it's as much art as it is science. You just want to work into the sides of the stitches where it looks good to you, and everybody is going to have their own opinions on that. I personally like to try and get 2 loops from the stitch on top of my hook, so to speak, as I'm working along the side there with my single crochets, but you can do it however looks best to you. Now, obviously, I'm not putting 8 stitches here in this little section, so we can go ahead and take these stitch markers out. But really, you just want to try and work as evenly as you can right along the sides of your previous rows. Okay, so after you've worked 32 single crochets along the side of your pillow, then you're going to chain 2 again, 1 and 2, and work a single crochet in the bottom of each stitch of that foundation chain. So remember when we made our foundation double crochets, we would go under the 2 loops of the previous stitch there to make our new chain. That's where these come in really handy, because we're just going to be able to work into these as if they were any other stitches. So you'll want to find that first one there at the bottom and just go right in there for a single crochet, and easy peasy, single crochet right on across that foundation chain. So since we had 32 stitches there, again, you should have 32 stitches across the bottom. Okay, so after you've worked your 32 single crochets right along the bottom of your piece, then it's time to chain 2 again and work another 32 stitches along that final side of your square. One note here, remember that you're working to the sides of your previous rows, not into the sides of your edging. So this row right here of single crochets is part of your edging. So you want to finish your 32 stitches before you get to that row. You don't want to work into the side of the edging itself. So you can split that up again with your stitch markers as need be, but go ahead and work your 32 stitches right along the edge. Okay, so when you have finished single crocheting along the side of the final side of your square, then it's time to finish off when you've gotten to that last corner. You can see here I stopped before I worked into the side of that edging. That's the round we're making now, so we don't want to work into the side of that one. We'll go ahead and chain 2, and then we can simply slip stitch to that first stitch of our edging and break our yarn and finish off. Then, of course, you need to start again and make a whole nother square, and then we can put them together to make our pillow. Okay, so once you've got your 2 squares made, then it's time to assemble them into your pillow. You want to make sure that the right side, so your marked side, is facing out on both halves. Now, I don't have 2 halves right here, so I'm just going to fold this one in half so I can demonstrate the assembly. But when you put your 2 pieces together, just make sure the 2 pieces are both facing out and your wrong sides with all your little ends and bits are on the inside of the pillow. Once you've got your 2 pieces together, then you can use your stitch markers, which I highly recommend, to help you line it up. Easily, you can just start right at those chain 2 corners. And then you just want to make sure that you match up each stitch with its companion stitch from the second piece, the other square, all the way to each end. And you don't have to put a stitch marker in each one. You could put a stitch marker in every 5 or every 10, whatever makes you comfortable, just to help you make sure that you stay on track. Okay, so let's begin our seaming with reverse single crochet. I'm going to put my hook under both of the loops of both layers of fabric, and I'm going to pull up my yarn for seaming. I'm just using a different color here, so it's a little bit easier to see. And you'll notice I'm putting my hook at this end of the row rather than at this end where I would normally start. Reverse single crochet works the opposite direction from where you normally work. So I'm going to go ahead and pull through that loop. There we go. And you always want to make sure you're going through both layers of the fabric here when you're seaming. So I'm just going to yarn over and pull that through to tighten it together, sort of get our yarn securely attached there. And I'm going to pull that down real tight so I won't count it as our chain 1. So I'm going to go ahead and chain 1. There we go. And then we can begin our reverse single crochet. I'm going to go under both loops of the next stitch right over, just as you normally would, but the opposite direction. Then we can yarn over, pull that loop through, and you can see it's a little twisted there, but we just want to pull it right on up, yarn over, and finish our single crochet. That first one always looks a little wonky. You have to work a couple of them to make them start really looking good. So let's do a couple more together. We're just going to go right to that next set of stitches. Make sure you get under both those layers of fabric there so that it is a seam. And you can see here, it looks a little confusing, but just go ahead and pull that yarn right onto the back. Yarn over, pull it through, yarn over again, and finish the stitch. Let's do another one. We're going to put our hook right on through both layers of fabric there. Yarn over, pull that loop through, yarn over again, and finish the stitch. So now that we've done a couple of them, if I give it a little tug, which I always like to do after I've made a few of those reverse single crochets, you can see it creates this really lovely textured edging. The reverse single crochet that I've just demonstrated here is also known as the crab stitch. So if you see reference to either of those stitches, now you know how to do it. So we just continue to do that all the way around our square. And when we get to those chain 2 spaces in the corners, we just work 3 reverse single crochets right in that space. That brings us right around, closes up that section, creates a great curve, and lets us continue to work right along our sides there. And since we've already edged them, that's really easy to do. Like I say, just make sure that you leave one side open and put that pillow form in before you do the final side. When you come up to the end then, you can just cut your yarn, and I like to use a sewing needle, or I guess a big yarn needle in this case, to sew that end right in there to sort of mimic the look as much as I can so you can't see where it ends and begins. Now, all that said, the reverse single crochet that you've just seen is simple, and yet it's a little bit tricky. Not everybody loves making that stitch. So I've got a great alternative called the twisted single crochet that I also really like. So here's what I like to do instead of the reverse single crochet when I can. I like to use something called the twisted single crochet. And for this one, we're going to start on the side we would normally start at. We're going to work in the same direction we normally work when we crochet. We don't have to worry about working back in the opposite direction. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hook under those first 2 stitches along the side here. And then I will pick up my new yarn right there. And again, this is just a different color to make it a little easier to see. Normally I would use the same color. I'll pull that loop through. Go ahead and do a quick slip stitch there to tie it all together so it's nice and secure. Then I'm going to chain 1, go into that same stitch to start a single crochet, pull up that loop, and now I would normally just go ahead, yarn over and pull through to finish a single crochet. But in this case, what I want to do first is give each of these loops a little tug. I want to make sure that loop I just pulled through has enough play in it. And then I'm going to spin my hook all the way around, like so. Then I will yarn over. And it helps, by the way, at this point, if you point the actual hook part of your hook down into the stitch a little bit so it doesn't catch the sides. And I can pull that right on through. And there's my first one. Just like the others, though, it takes a few to make it look really good. So let's do a couple more together. We'll go right into the next stitch. Again, make sure we want to catch both layers here since we're doing some seaming. Yarn over, pull that loop up, and then really pull that loop up. Give it a little extra tug. Spin your hook all the way around, then yarn over, and pull that loop right on through. It can be a little tight, and if you find that it's too tight, that means you haven't given those loops enough of a tug up, or that you need to point that hook part down a little bit more. So we've got our loops up there. We give them that little extra tug, spin our hook, yarn over, make sure it's pointing down to make it run through a little bit easier there, and there we go. Now, if I give that a tug, you can see it gives us sort of that same scalloped look, but I find it a little bit easier than the reverse single crochet. So both of them work, absolutely, and you can give them both a whirl and see which you prefer when you finish off your diagonal stripes and texture crochet pillow. So that's how to crochet the diagonal stripes and texture crochet pillow. Here in the finished pillow, you can see that great diagonal texture that we made with our shifting stitch patterns of front post and back post double crochets. You can see it's exactly the same on the back, and we've got that great reverse single crochet, twisted single crochet, crab stitch, whatever you prefer. You can put a great edging on this pillow, and it's going to look fantastic in any setting. So I hope you'll give this pattern a try, as well as Yarnspiration's Bernat Blanket. Remember, it only takes 2 balls to make this gorgeous pillow. Of course, you'll also need a pillow form and your USL 8mm crochet hook. So you can get both this pattern and the yarn on yarnspirations.com. This has been Tamara from mooglyblog.com. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.